On this adventure, I'm going to explore the mosaic of surreal landscapes and incredible wildlife that inhabit this extreme environment known as the Altiplano. I'm in La Paz, Bolivia, which at 12,000 feet is the Earth's highest capital city. Coming from sea level in Seattle, my body really needs to acclimatize to this altitude because I'm on my way to one of the harshest, most extreme environments on Earth, the high plains of the Andes, the Altiplano. The Altiplano is one of the major ecosystems in the Andes. The region stretches from southern Peru to western Bolivia, and from northern Chile to northern Argentina. I'm exploring the Altiplano with local biologist and guide, David Ricaldi. David, how would you define the Altiplano?
Well, the Altiplano is one of the most spectacular landscapes in the Americas. It's a mix of fine ecosystems. There's pastures, glaciers, wetlands. You see mountains, hillsides of different colors, flamingos flying, painting the landscape in such a way that's very impressive. Those things are, for me, what's the Altiplano. That emptiness, but at the same time, is full of life.
There's a bunch of flamingos in this shallow pond. There's a little bit of a hill that we're going to try to get behind. One's coming in right now that's got beautiful red wings. Ah, look at them all flying. I'm looking for patterns in color, and these birds are just all coming in right in front of us. Nice. I think they did that expressly for me. I am a little self-centered here.
This is the Puna flamingo, one of the two rarest species on the planet. There are 6, and you have seen 1 today.
They remind me a lot of myself because I've got long, skinny white legs with red knees. Look at that. The beauty of the Altiplano is expressed in its barren but majestic mountains and tranquil mineral lakes. It's here that the Andes are at their widest and emptiest. The high peaks seem to keep watch over the life that thrives in this spare environment. It can be an unforgiving place. I find it a beautiful and timeless landscape. Perhaps the most iconic views of the entire Andean Altiplano rise right behind me, the twin volcanoes of the Pachaca. I'm poised at the edge of this little pond, hoping to get a perfect reflection. Right now, the sun is going through a number of layers of clouds, but as it gets really close to the horizon, within the next 30 minutes, these mountains should light up like a Roman candle. My legs are cold, I'm cold, my nose is running. All of this is good stuff because I'm going to get the shot. Or so I hope.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
This is what I was hoping for. It's a really beautiful, very clean, elegant shot. I'm walking through a very surreal environment. This place is called the Rocas de Dali, the Rocks of Salvador Dali. It's named because it's very surreal with these columns of rock that are basically petrified magma. But photographing it is difficult, so I'm going to go and find a location where I can get a shot and try to make sense of this really beautiful landscape. I have found a great perspective to shoot the Rocks of Dali. The analogy is it's difficult to photograph a forest from within, but if you get a little distance away, it starts to make sense, and this is true here. The rocks are casting a beautiful shadow against this very, very smooth plain. So the texture of the rock plays nicely against the smoothness of the plain. In addition, as the sun gets lower, the plain itself reflects the light in a differential way, giving it one more nuance, one more element for my composition. By using a long lens, in this case a 400mm lens, I'm compressing the scene, but also creating a very simplistic shot, which is perfect for the Rocas de Dali. You know, he painted in a very surrealistic but minimalist way, and from this viewpoint, it's very simple, very elegant, and perfect for the shot. David and I have found this great spot. This geyser basin high in the Andes. Isn't this a beautiful place? We have to be extremely careful. Very, very hot water is just leaching out. It's a photographer's dreamscape. Whenever I travel into a new environment, and this is an extremely new environment to me, I'm trying to convey a sense of place in just one or two or three or four iconic images. I'm getting a lot of layers right here that really shows the complexity of the landscape. Look at that. On either side of us are all these abstract designs. I love this place. I don't think you can get a bad shot here. I feel like I'm walking through Dante's Inferno. The sights, the smells, the sounds of all of this area is so otherworldly. Nature never fails to amaze me, and on this level, it's artwork. I'm at Laguna Colorada, a beautiful lake surrounded by mountains. David, what makes this lake red?
Well, you know that there are some microscopic plants that the flamingos are eating, little plants that are that color, and they are painting this lake red. Those are the Andean flamingos, one of the rarest flamingos in the Andes.
The Andean flamingos, there's Chilean flamingos, right?
Yes.
And the Puna.
Exactly.
3 flamingos high in the Andes. There's only 6 types of flamingos worldwide.
Yes.
3 of them are here. Are they literally straining the mud and getting these microorganisms?
They
or
are
what?
filtering. That's why they have that bill always upwards.
It's beautiful behavior. They're so designy, you know, they just are pink and black and yellow. They've got such graceful lines. What is this animal walking behind us and upstaging us?
Yeah, that's a llama.
It's a beautiful llama. I'm getting a nice flock of birds just flying right in. It's so easy to photograph these birds landing because they slow up to catch the wind and they gently land right in front of my camera. I'm just filling the frame with nothing but pink bodies, yellow legs, orange beaks. Ah, they're so great. What a great situation this is. Is there anything threatening these birds or even this environment right now?
There are 2 main threats in any wetland in the Andes. One, mining operations, especially large-scale operations, removing soils, shallow waters, polluting waters, and destroying fragile ecosystems like this. The second is poor water management schemes that are draining water to feed agricultural development in Bolivia, in Peru, in Argentina, and in Chile. We need to educate people. I think that there's still people that need to understand that these are the finest ecosystems in this part of the planet, and we need to save them as soon as possible. We are against time. Many million years ago, this part of the Altiplano was covered by a huge lake that was 480 miles long and 240 miles wide.
Wow, that's huge.
And in time, that lake evaporated, disappeared, leaving only major wetlands and this salt flat. Minerals leach slowly fill this flat landscape, creating a massive deposit of salt. Now we are stepping on a salt deposit, which in some places could be 100 feet deep.
100 feet deep of salt?
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. Well, hey, let's go check it out. I want to
Let's go
take some pictures.
All right.
We're on our way to Isle Pescada. This is an island that's isolated by at least 50 miles of open salar on all sides. It's a very strange island. It's a microclimate, very unique plants. It's an oasis. Beautiful. What an environment. I think we call these things candelabra cactus. I've heard that they're 900 years old. Watch out the baby cactus. Those will go right through your boots. It's like a playland if you're a photographer. With these candelabra cactus being backlit by the sun, I'm going to try to find a place where I can actually make sense of it and render these cactus in a very abstract way. And I think I've just found it. Look at this, David.
Oh, wow.
This is really cool. I'm going to position my camera so I get a little bit of the sunburst coming through the cactus, but it should be very, very nice. But I've got to act fast because the sun is going down. What I'm trying to do is just get this lens right where the sun is coming out. I'm using extreme light. In other words, I'm facing the lens and the camera directly into this bright sun, but I'm trying to put the cactus in between so I shield my lens from getting a lens flare, but at the same time, I'm really highlighting every spine on this cactus. So each cactus has this rim light that is extraordinarily beautiful. I'm rendering these cactus into something more abstract. I'm not trying to illustrate a botany book. I'm trying to create artwork with this type of subject. One of my favorite subjects to shoot are star trails. And out here in the middle of the salar, on this island full of cactus, I've got perfect subjects because it's a very clear night. So I've framed this cactus very low so that the star trails that I'm going to capture with long exposure, 8 hours, will come out from under the arms of the cactus. But the last thing I want to do is to turn on my headlamp and really paint with light. As I paint this cactus, it will create a balance between this and the stars that will be illuminated by the 8-hour exposure. Wow, this is great. I'm out on the salar right at dawn. I'm photographing these really interesting lines. How do these things form?
Well, the assemblage of crystals while they are drying will create this beautiful mosaic. The crystals are pushing and every block will be pushing more, and that's why you have those protuberances here, and that's nature.
I'm using these lines to lead your eye right into the depth of this composition, and it's really stunning. What we're looking at are piles of salt that have been scraped up by local villagers. They've literally piled these salt crystals into rounded mounds, and as the wind blows and dries the salt crystals, they form these perfect pyramids, which is a great subject for my camera. I love working in the margins of light like this, post-sunset or pre-sunrise. It's when the shadows are gone. I've got deep colors. I'm using a tripod to stabilize, and frequently my exposures are 1 minute to 30 seconds, but the payoffs are so great because the colors are deep and the abstract nature of these landscapes are really profound. This is so cool. Normally in a composition, you don't want to put a horizon down the middle, but in this particular case, I'm trying to create an abstract, surreal environment. So I've got the horizon right down the middle, the clouds are reflected. It's really a spatial type of shot. I've traveled all around the world and I've visited some pretty amazing places, but I have to tell you, nothing compares to this landscape. It's almost a moonscape. It's so surreal. It's like the sky and the land meet in a seamless border.
This place makes Bolivia unique because northern nations have something like this. You know, other nations have rainforests, cloud forests, Andean landscape, but this, you know, is special.
This is unique to Bolivia.
Yes.
Well, I sure love it. I'm so happy I came down here. I've been documenting wild places for decades. I'm always struck by the concentration of diversity in this beautiful, pristine bay. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on this journey to the edge. I've been coming to Glacier Bay for a long time, and every time I come back here, I discover something new. The Ice Age really had a profound effect on this region of Southeast Alaska. All the great islands run north and south. All the channels largely are running north and south. Glacier Bay, only 200 years ago, had 4,000 feet of ice, and today there's just remnant glaciers. I'm being joined by Greg Green, a wildlife biologist who has extensive knowledge in the marine ecosystems of Southeast Alaska. What I love is just the richness of this environment that we're traveling through. Not only do you have the spectacular glaciated mountains, the really intact forests, but you got all the animals that thrive in these wild waters. All up and down the West Coast, and especially true in Southeast Alaska, cultures use totem poles to really symbolize the animals that they revered and respected, the eagles, the orcas, and the raven. Right now we've got 2 whales and they're still up, and in a second or two it's going to be a nice shot because the spray will come straight up, and any second now they're going to do it, and when they do it I'm going to get the shot. 1, 2, there we go, beautiful, and the second one will come up, there we go. Wow, there's really a lot of activity here. We're in the midst of a huge group of humpback whales. That's so beautiful right now with the calm water, the even light, the way these spouts just really hang in the air. It almost looks like a watercolor painting. The sound of it is so beautiful. Very nice. That's spectacular. Just to have that dark green body of water, the way the spray is really distinguished from the dark background, and then that graceful way these huge animals just enter the water. When do they start heading south, and where are they going?
These whales winter in Hawaii, and they don't feed there. That's where they go to breed. That's where they go to have calves. And then they come back here to feed, to forage in this rich waters.
What's the status of the humpback whale? Are they endangered?
Well, they're still classified as an endangered animal and under the Endangered Species Act, but the populations here are definitely increasing. Humpback whales are coming back in the North Pacific.
It's an animal that you only get glimpses of part of their body until they actually breach. They usually breach when they come back to the surface. And usually when they get into the rhythm, they come to the surface 3 or 4 times, but that first time they come back up after sounding or diving, they come up with such force that they can launch their bodies right out of the water. These whales should be coming up any second. I got it. That is amazing. That was fantastic. Just a sequence of 2 or 3 shots, and there's more coming up right now. This is a great place. There's so much action right here. The water is very turbulent, and it mixes up the fish, the herring, the krill. Consequently, we got cormorants, gulls, eagles, sea lions, all vying for the same food. Really great for the heart and for the mind to see an environment that is largely intact. The forests are all the way from the top of the ridges all the way to the water line. No clear cuts, no roads, no buildings along the shore. This is a beautiful forest with the Sitka spruce and hemlock. How old would you think these trees are?
Well, we know. This is forest began about 200 years ago when Captain Vancouver was here and the glacier just receded past.
Wow, that's amazing. In 200 years, this whole forest was established. How is this forest actually being affected by global warming?
Well, one of the things that we are seeing is the decline of Alaskan yellow cedar, and that seems to be as a result of decline in snowfall levels.
So what's taking the place of yellow cedar?
Well, at this stage, nothing. We're waiting to see how global change and climates are going to affect all of Southeast Alaska.
Nothing stays the same.
Nothing at all.
I love working in the rainforest, and if it's raining, I just adjust to it. And the subjects here are many and varied. There's some beautiful lines, abstract details. This becomes now my subject. Right now I'm zeroing in on just a few raindrops in the circular patterns that are really spiraling out. It becomes a really nice pattern, really nice study of light and dark. I've got a really nice shot here of fungus and dripping moss, and it's a great change from shooting the grand landscapes of glaciers and mountains to come into this forest. It's a calming effect on the mind. It's such a soft environment, such a quiet environment, and now I'm shooting a very quiet, soft subject. This is Dundas Bay, is part of the national park, and it's a great habitat for black bears that come out of the forest in hibernation in the spring. They eat this very succulent grass. This is the sign of a bear. Okay. The tops of this grass is all cut off from where it's eaten, and it's really pressed the grass as he's walked up this creek. And the fact that the grass is still pretty much bent means he's come through in the last day, maybe in the last couple hours. This is a pretty fresh bear track here. He drew a line from one toe across here. If the toe is below this line, it's a black bear. If it's above, it's a grizzly. And just the sheer size of this, if this was a grizzly bear track, it'd be a pretty young bear. But this is a medium-sized black bear. There's a bear not too far away from here. It's taken one look at us, and it's cut across what I think is these alders, and it might come right out over here. So if I can anticipate the direction it's moving, we might be able to get a good shot. So let's walk over here. It's just cut through these bushes. There it is, right there. Stop. It doesn't really have great eyesight, but it sees us and is wondering what we are. These bears now are sharing their environment with the brown bear or the grizzly. So they're much more apprehensive about other shapes walking around. We're gonna move. I think he might come out one last time at right where this little creek comes out of the forest. It might be a good shot. This is a nice situation because this bear is nice and relaxed. We're getting our shots, we've moved slow, and every time it stopped, we stopped. And consequently, we've been able to get up close without really pressuring the bear. So now the bear is relaxed, eating grass. I'm getting my shots. One of the iconic animals here in Southeast Alaska are the orcas. They're very hard to predict, and often you never see them. What we try to do with these orcas is discern the direction they're heading. then go way ahead, and then the choice is for the orca to either come towards us or give us a wide berth. And often they come right next to us as long as we're not chasing them. With the orcas, unlike the humpbacks, they get into a rhythm and they stay on the surface. They're a much smaller animal and they're not as capable as the humpback to stay underneath the surface. So we have a higher likelihood of predicting the distance and the direction that these orcas are going. They're only above the surface for a split second, and I don't want to miss that. And I didn't. As we entered Glacier Bay, it's really interesting to see how the glaciers have carved and shaped the land. Not only the fjords, but many of the islands are resistant columns of rock that really rise out of the ocean bottom. There's just so much wildlife in this really rich environment. And right now there's an eagle flying, beautiful, being trailed by gulls. A lot going on right now. Here's a whole colony of kittiwakes flying in front of the cliffs. I saw a peregrine falcon earlier, and we've got a mountain goat with a very young kid and a cevidoe, all right on the same cliff right in front of us. I think what happens is that these cliffs really absorb a lot of the heat from the sun, and consequently the snow melts off really soon in the season and exposes the sedges and the lichens that they really love to eat. Very chilled out. That's what's nice about photographing these mountain goats, is very relaxed, really a nice looking animal, looking straight at us right now. You can see how that powerful hump on the back is really the center for the muscles that enable it to go straight up and down. This is a nice opportunity with a mother and two cubs. The babies are so cute. And the very fact that we're drifting up so slowly, the mother's curious. She's watching us. She's eating barnacles right off the rock. Bears are such omnivores. They'll eat the barnacles, they'll eat grass, they'll eat salmon, berries. It's great to hear the baby cry. Almost like a human baby right now. They are so young. They haven't been out of the den very long. She's a great looking mother. Oh, nice moment. The babies are just touching nose with mother. Oh, that's as good as it gets right there. We're easing up onto this colony of northern sea lions on the north side of this island. These sea lions have found just the perfect slope of rock where they can easily carry themselves up out of the water and relax and rest. This is known as a rookery. I'm going to try to get an establishing shot of the colony, and then I'll be looking slowly across the colony for individuals that might be interacting, a male and a female, or even two males that be fighting over a female. Each male basically can stand each other when they're 15 or 20, 30 feet apart. They get too close to each other, they start to steal each other's females, and they start fighting. This is the perfect light conditions for photographing these guys. If it was even brighter or overcast, their big bulky bodies would cast shadows over other animals. But with this even light, it really allows us to make sense of the entire colony of northern sea lions. As we head further up the bay towards the glaciers, the terrain gets rockier and the water becomes much colder. The glaciers that feed fresh water into Glacier Bay are retreating at an amazing rate. It's a natural process, but it's being accelerated by global warming. I love this environment. It's just like kayaking through a huge watercolor painting to me. It's hard to fathom that this entire fjord was carved out by huge glaciers, much, much larger than these tiny little guys now, these tidewater glaciers. 200 years ago, how deep do you think the ice was right where we are?
Probably somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 feet thick.
Can you imagine in 200 years that 4,000 feet of ice has melted? That's extraordinary. You know, it's amazing that this landscape is in such rapid transition. This snow has been locked up in this ice for hundreds of years, and now it's about to calve into this fjord, melt, and once again join the water cycle. It's really interesting also to see how the oldest ice is the clearest ice, and it's on the bottom layer of a glacier. And it's really compressed hard and clear, almost like the way diamonds are formed. Look at that wall over here that looks just like a wall of jade. It's so beautiful. I'm so privileged to be able to come into an environment like this and see things that most people don't have an opportunity to see. Just this out-of-worldly location is extraordinary. The ice that's got locked up in this glacier may have fallen in the form of snow hundreds of years ago. And now at the terminus, it's calving off and ultimately melting out. And it's overwhelming when you think of the scale of the human in relationship to a wall of ice that may be 300 or 400 feet high. I love photographing this environment because it's so abstract with the colors, the lines, the textures of this great glacier. It's a frightening environment, it's a dynamic environment. Ultimately, it's a fascinating environment for the camera and for my imagination. The deep blues of the light passing through the ice crystals really translate well on film. I love shooting landscapes where the sense of scale is obscured. You really rely on the abstract. As my eye adjusts to this dynamic landscape, I find more and more shots to shoot. And right now, I'm concentrating on just the reflections of these very circular icebergs with their very subtle gradients of white all the way to deep blue. Right now, I'm making this tiny little iceberg really dominant in the frame, and then the reflections of the icebergs across the water really is a nice soft backdrop. So foreground, background, very surreal landscape. It's all coming together. And just verifying in the back of my camera, and I can see that I'm getting exactly what I want. The glaciers are still active today. And it's among the most exciting things that I've ever seen anywhere on Earth. To see a glacier calve into these deep blue waters is a really thrilling sight. It's like explosions going off in front of you. It's both frightening, but also extremely intriguing and exciting to see. So much of this area has been protected over the years with great legislation, setting aside Glacier Bay and all the regions around it for protection forever. And yet, the great unknown is what impact will global warming have on this very fragile ecosystem? With the warming of the Earth, what will happen to the populations of birds and sea creatures that live and abound in these waters? This is something we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's a place where granite peaks touch the clouds, where icebergs catch the light, and Andean condors rule the sky. Patagonia has it all. I've been documenting wild places for decades, and I'm still seduced by Patagonia's rugged beauty. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on Travels to the Edge. Patagonia straddles Chile and Argentina and stretches nearly 2,400 kilometers from the Rio Colorado in the north to Tierra del Fuego in the south. Torres del Paine in the southern Andes includes some of the most diverse and spectacular parts of this rugged region. I've been coming down to Patagonia for the last 15 years, and one of the places I love to come to, of course, is Torres del Paine. And it's not just because of the spectacular landscapes, it's because there's so many animals to photograph here, one of which is the guanaco. These are great animals of these open plains. One of the reasons they thrive here is they can run away from their chief predator, the puma. This is great. This is a herd of mothers and babies. The babies, known as chulengos, are really probably born within the last month. They're great to photograph because they're so clean and fuzzy and pure looking. And then to have the interaction between the mothers and the babies, they're really chilled out right now, but I bet you when I get closer, they'll start to move around and interact, and that's exactly the kind of behavior I'm hoping for. I like to stay low and really slow. If they're sitting down and all of a sudden I'm silhouetted against a bright sky, it can intimidate them. The more relaxed they become and remain, the better shots I can get. As I approach them, I'm constantly watching their behavior. If they start to move too fast away from me, I'm going to stop, sit down, let them relax. But they're more interested in what's happening between the males chasing each other. The babies are staying close. I think it's a great situation to get some nice shots. The fact that it's overcast right now is perfect because with this many animals, bright sunshine creates a lot of harsh shadows on the animals. It's hard to get a great shot of multiple animals in bright sunshine. Choosing to use a fairly small telephoto lens because I'll be able to zoom back and take in more of the animals. If it was just one animal, I probably would shoot a more powerful lens like a 400. But with a group, I always tend to use the wider angles, incorporate more of the animals in the environment. In the distance on the ridge, you can see a guanaco silhouetted. He's watching out for pumas. These are herd animals, and when they sit, they face all different directions, just keeping an eye out for the odd puma that might happen by. That is a male calling. He's moving the women and the babies around right now. This whole valley is a series of small lakes surrounded by very luxuriant green grass, and that is why these guanacos are here. It's great for the babies. It's protected out of the harsh winds up on the higher hills. This is a natural nursery for these guanacos. Speaking of which, right now I've got two babies just staring right at me. In fact, they're so close. I need to make a vertical shot of this. This is a great shot. They're just staring at me, all lined up perfectly. They're very curious at this age. That's it, guys. They're looking straight at me. This is fantastic action as these babies just keep running back and forth in front of me. Fantastic.
I think it's important when people travel all the way to Patagonia and ultimately towards Del Paine to actually see the peaks the park is named after. These are very impressive 10,000-foot spires of granite. And on the other end, Cuernos Towers is equally dramatic.
Well, I was just driving up the road. I spotted one of my favorite little animals of this park, a Patagonian fox. So I'm going to go down into this little low area and see if I can't find it. This is a really nice situation with this very, very tame fox. And with the beautiful backdrop of the Andes, I'm shooting a wide angle. It's very rare that you'd be able to get a fox this close. I'm going to try to reposition myself and keep the fox between the mountains and me and also the light. So if I can squeeze around, and I've got his full attention at this point. Beautiful. Now I'm getting in a position where I've got the spectacular mountains behind. Really nice sequence as he walked right in front of the mountains. They're beautiful little foxes. They're known as gray foxes, or in this part of the world, in Patagonia, the Patagonian fox. In very cold environments, very windy environments, animals tend to have smaller appendages, you know, shorter ears, shorter legs, just to retain the heat. He's never been hunted, nor has its ancestors ever been hunted in this great biosphere reserve. Whenever I'm around an animal this close or this tame, I'm keeping my voice moving, often talking to him in very low, reassuring terms. And there's something about breaking that silence that also breaks the tension between the animal and the human. They're really, really quite innocent in their behavior around humans. And for me, it's a great thing because I'm shooting with extreme wide angle with these rugged Cuernos Towers as a backdrop. It gives this fox a great sense of place. Oh, this is really nice. What's your name? Huh? I found a much larger herd. I hope they're not after me. Guanacos are strange animals, but about 15 feet, 20 feet in front of me, there's a herd of about 50 or 60. And this is much denser than the herd that we just were photographing over at the nursery. They're much tighter packed, and they seem so chilled out. I think I can get a lot closer. One last trick because the sky is so dramatic. I want to really darken it so that the animals themselves really stand out. So I'm going to just use this graduated neutral density filter that I used quite often and just frame this thing. But first I have to take the lens cap off. This is such a great opportunity to get this close to these wild animals. Patagonia really delivers when it comes to that. Foxes that walk right up to you, guanacos that are just chilled out, and it enables me to use these wider angles to take the really dramatic landscapes, which is so indicative of Patagonia. So big skies, big mountains, and wonderful wildlife. I'm walking through an ancient beech forest ravaged by the constant winds that blow down Lago Gray or Lake Gray. And what also blows down this lake are enormous icebergs that have been calved by the Gray Glacier 7 miles up the lake. And it's those icebergs that I'm on my way to photograph. Seven-tenths of an iceberg lies below the surface. We're talking about an enormous mass of ice. What's fun for me when I'm photographing icebergs is the fact that they're constantly rotating and changing shape, always giving me multiple opportunities with the same piece of ice. What I love to photograph about icebergs is the way the light fractures, and although they're not truly blue, they appear really blue. And in this case, some of these bigger ones are amazingly blue. Fantastic. I love this stuff. There's over 300 different species of birds that live in Patagonia, and this is one of the more famous ones, the caracara. It's a bird of prey, very, very tame, and it looks pretty impressive when you see it by itself, but when you see it in comparison to a condor, it's tiny. It's an amazing bird, however. They're full of energy and spunk, and they can walk right up to foxes. They're very unintimidated. Come down to the edge of this lake to photograph a beautiful view of the Cuernos Towers in early morning light, and yet it just isn't happening. There's just no light on these mountains, unfortunately.
But what is happening is an amazing, spectacular cloud has formed right over the top of these mountains, and that is now going to be my main focus. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is I'm always trying to look for something that may be a secondary subject that becomes my most important shot out of the day. Wow, that looks like a pretty spectacular waterfall. A lot of layers. That's exactly what I like to see in a waterfall, is layers of rock and water going over, and with long exposures, this should be a very, very nice shot. Patagonia is about big. Big mountains, big open landscapes, big glaciers, big rivers, and what those rivers have are big waterfalls. So I can't wait to experience this one. There's different ways one can photograph waterfalls. Most people just tend to shoot a postcard. What I try to do is go in and shoot the details. In this case, there's a series of waterfalls over some steps that I've zoomed in across the river. I put a polarizer on, which takes a little bit of the shine off the water, but more importantly, gives me the ability to take a longer exposure, creating more of a ribbony effect with the water, which creates an artistic slant on this waterfall.
One of the challenges in this windswept environment is to find the serene moments.
After spending several days in Torres del Paine, it becomes painfully obvious that the only time when the wind isn't blowing is early in the morning. And why that's important is if I ever want to get reflections or get a different type of shot other than just the tight shots of the mountains, this is the time, the margin of the day when I'm going to work. I found this tiny little pond next to a road, and I'm going to have to get very low to try to incorporate the reflection of these towers of pine. And with a tripod like this, I have the ability to move the legs independently and literally get it right down in the mud, which enables me to get the angle of the reflection that I'm going to need. And suddenly, what looked like nothing from a position 6 feet above, right down into the water, looks like a very, very nice scene. And the last thing I'm going to need to do is use a neutral density filter where I'm going to bring it right over the top portion of the frame, because invariably reflections are 2 stops darker than the sky above, and this will bring the entire image into proper alignment. And it looks perfect. I have found a mother and father kelp goose with 8 little goslings. The male is all white on the top and female is gray but beautiful yellow legs. There's 8 little goslings that have probably hatched out within the last week. It is a matter of getting in, getting close, letting them relax to your presence. And some of my best shots have been where the mother's standing and all the little 8 goslings are standing right below it.
My last stop in Patagonia is high in the Andes, in the realm of one of the world's most majestic birds. The most effective way to photograph condors is to take the camera off the tripod so you can pan with them, because when they literally come so close, they're moving very, very fast. And it would be very hard pressed. This is a beautiful male coming at me right now. Wow. Fantastic. These are huge birds. These are among the largest flying birds on Earth. They can fly as far as 50 to 150 miles in a single day and come back to the same roost at night. They just unfold their huge wings and off they go, up and higher and higher. I just love the way they come in with their 10-foot wingspans, 10 feet. That's incredible. When the thermals start rising along the cliffs, they just unfold their wings and up they go. Effortlessly, they can be 1,000 feet above you or 10,000 feet above you. These big males are the ones with the white collars, and they have kind of a interesting head shape. They also have white patches on the back of their wings, so I can always identify them coming in. What's amazing also about these birds is that their entire system of raising chicks is such that they breed only every other year and raise a chick every other year, because it takes so long to raise a bird of this size. These birds in the wild will live up to 50 years. They'll mate for life. And I love it when they come down right below me, so I can look straight down on them. What's amazing about these birds is that they're looking for other animals reacting to what's happening on the ground. In other words, if there's a dead animal, other animals will react to it. They're looking for carrion. They're looking for a dead guanaco, a dead sheep. They're not choosy as long as it's dead. Shooting with digital allows me to keep clicking. In the past, the minute I had something great, I'd have to be changing rolls of film. These birds are really built for these high Andes, and they just are amazing when you watch them soar right above you. Ah, nice, 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 nice. The peaks of wild Patagonia guard the fragile beauty of this isolated part of the planet. From its unique wildlife to its dramatic landscapes, Torres del Paine perches on the edge of the earth. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on Travels to the Edge. I've been traveling to wild places for decades. There's no better place on Earth to view these massive bears than Katmai National Park. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on this Travels to the Edge. The Katmai Coast is the largest intact, uninhabited coastline left in North America. Once you get up in the air and you start to fly along this coast, you really see the extent and the variety of the land formations. This is a great place to come, whether you're a photographer or a naturalist or somebody that just wants to see nature raw and pristine. Hi.
Nice to meet you. All right.
Finally, at last, we're here. Where are we right now?
We're anchored up right here.
I'm joining bear expert Derek Stoneroff and naturalist Brad Joseph to explore this wild coast.
One thing, Art, that they try to do in Alaska is identify habitats that are critical, and these sedge flats are really, really critical habitats for the survival of brown bears.
When people think of bears and they see this really wild peninsula, they really think it's the mountains and the forests. That's the reason the bears are here, but it's really about what the ocean brings to them. I can't wait to get out there and see these bears.
All up and down the Katmai coast, there's these tidal flats with sedge grasses growing. It's a big drawing part for the bears, and if these meadows were not here, the bears wouldn't be down here at this time of year. They're the first areas to green up.
So these bears will spend how much of the day just eating food?
Differing in amounts, but you can expect to see some bears down here all the time. They might eat 16, 18 hours a day. A lot of these guys might double their body weight. These sedge meadows are real important for bears for social behavior and meeting each other.
He seems awfully interested in her.
Yeah, it's mating season. He's definitely following her around, and she's definitely tolerating him at a much closer range. That's one way to tell if you see a mating pair.
I'm walking gently, I'm in the rain. The sun is up in the sky. I'm ready for romance. My heart is full of joy. I'm strolling away, far from the bus. Don't have no hesitation. I'm gonna rejoin my love and start a cozy home.
From where I'm standing, I can count 8 bears. And they're constantly popping up and disappearing as they go up and over these little rises. And it makes it exciting because you never know where one's coming up.
Bears aren't grazing animals. They have a very difficult time digesting grass. These are very specific kinds of sedges, and it's only in these little pockets right here in the intertidal areas that these sedges grow. The other thing that happens when these really high tides come in fact, it's the second highest tide in the world here, it floods these meadows with salt water, brings in a lot of seaweed and algae and things.
In a month, this river could be filled with salmon.
Absolutely. It's perfect timing for the bears because just as soon as these sedges go to seed, the salmon show up. It's absolutely designed to be the perfect habitat. There's always food supply for these bears.
These bears don't have to go too far afield. They get their salmon, they get their vegetables, their salads, and it's a huge buffet for these bears. Right behind us is another bear. We got 3 right in front of us, and I'm not too concerned about the one behind us, are you?
Oh, I'm keeping an eye on them. They're doing their thing. We're sitting here doing ours. It's okay. We're not the focus of their attention.
From this distance, it's pretty obvious for me to tell female now that I've been around these bears for a couple of days, but from a distance, what are the main things that you look for?
Females tend to be blonder, but there's a lot of exceptions with color. But it's mostly body proportions and how they're built. They're built fairly differently. The males have a longer neck, longer legs, longer body, and although their head is much larger, from a distance it looks a lot smaller in proportion to the rest of the body. The biggest females might get to 800-900 pounds. The largest males could get to, 1,600.
It's amazing how close they're coming to us, and the fact that we're sitting low and talking quietly. They just seem not afraid.
Yeah, this is really the right way to handle being close around these bears. We're in a submissive position. We're sort of neutral, we're non-threatening.
Grizzly bears and brown bears are one and the same bear.
Yes, they're definitely the same species.
These are the same bears that everybody fears in the Rockies, the great predator, the dangerous animal, and look, it's just like a cow in a field right in front of us.
These bears haven't been hunted since 1920. Their instinctual fear of people has been washed away in generations of sort of a peaceful coexistence. If we treat them with respect, they treat us with respect.
This trail looks almost like a bear freeway to me.
Generations and generations of bear traffic, just over and over, have just worn these grooves. These trails are like super highways that just interconnect all of the drainages and the food sources the bears use. It's just a very complex network of trails all up and down the Katmai coast.
So obvious how they keep their feet into each track on left foot and right foot, and I have no idea what the significance of that is, and you probably don't either.
No, it's one of the mysteries of bears.
Well, let's follow this trail and see where it leads us.
We're right in the heart of the largest population of protected bears in the world. 4,000 to 5,000 in this area.
4,000 to 5,000 brown bears.
Yes,
wow.
They're all within the national park, all protected.
It's absolutely miserable out right now. It's cold, it's windy, it's rainy, it's bear weather. There's a mother with a cub, and they're just wandering around, and we've done a couple things to help us get shots. One of which is we're facing away from the wind and the rain. The other thing is we've gotten low, and if we're really quiet and we move slow, they're likely to come very close to us. We're not approaching them, we're gonna allow them to approach us. She may go right back up on that ridge. This is good. This is gonna be great. This cub and this mother are on this high ridge overlooking this plain with at least 13 adult bears. So she's a little reticent to getting down low. She wants to know where all bears are because occasionally boars will take a cub. And so she's very cautious. She's looking around and she puts her head up, getting a really nice shot. This is a long ways I'm shooting, probably at least a half a mile away. 1,000 millimeter in overcast conditions, very slow shutter speed, but a great shot.
That's an awesome shot. It just really shows the power of the bear and just the whole body.
I've photographed bears for 20 years. I've never gotten a shot where the bear is standing straight up like a human, staring straight at me. And it's really looked threatening, but in reality, it's just standing up to get a better look.
As soon as low tide rolls around, the bears appear out of nowhere. The bears know when low tide is. I don't know if it's by smell or just internal timing, but they're very in tune with the tides and the timing of the tides.
Hallow is famous for its clam-eating bears. Off to your right, there's a bear over there, and you can see behind her, she started to dig. There's piles where she's dug a hole and then moved on to the next one. I think each hole's probably a clam.
about this shot is the simpleness of the landscape. You can see all the claws, the feet. There's just nothing impeding our view of this beautiful bear, and it's extraordinarily beautiful with the long golden fur just blowing in the breeze. I love the background, the light, and the thing that I like the most is the fact that it's totally unaffected by our presence. It's a very candid way of photographing a wild animal in a beautiful, simple landscape.
Brown bear is superbly equipped. It's a digging bear. Of all the 7 species of bears, these are the diggers. He's got this great big hump, which is really a big hunk of muscle, and they've got extra long claws. If you compare a bear claw to a polar bear claw or a black bear claw, they're shaped differently, but they're meant for digging.
Whenever I'm photographing a new environment, I love not only to shoot the grand landscape, but also the intimate details. I've found a really nice shot of washed up kelp and seaweed. I've made it important by zooming in with a macro lens. I love doing that. I love revealing things that people often pass by. The diversity along this Katmai coast is incredible. Every time we turn around, there's a new species. Right now, I've got tufted puffins on a beautiful lichen-covered rock. These are beautiful little birds. They're almost comical. They look like clowns. I'm using a 1,000mm lens with a 1.4, which is the equivalent now of a 1,400mm lens to bring them in and to get a satisfying view. Behind me, there's a bald eagle nest, literally in the grass. And I've situated this camera slightly above so I can take in the dark background of the distant mountains. What I'm waiting for and what I'm hoping for is a bald eagle literally landing at the nest with its wings spread out. With follow focus, I can just stay on this bird. For an hour, and I can see it just coming. It's about a couple hundred yards off, but as soon as it gets close, that's nice, with her laying on her back legs. She's going down, she's going down. That is funny. Beautiful female. Looking up at us, gonna sit down, gonna sit. I love it. Now it's gonna fall, 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 fall. Ah, nice behavior. Look at how it's just playing with its paw. It is so roly-poly. It looks and exhibits behavior like a panda. I love this. Look at that. Scratching. It's hard to stay up. Whenever I'm shooting a bear or any animal that is exhibiting some comical behavior like this bear right now, it really affects the emotions of the people that ultimately look at the photos. Often one single salient photo that really connects with people is a very effective way of winning their support. That's a really big boar over here. His name is Snaggletooth.
You can see that canine that sticks out. His jaw was broken in a fight, probably a little female during the mating season. Oh wow, he's got blood on his shoulders. He must have gotten in a mating fight.
He was running around, and there was 2 males over there, and they may have gotten a fight.
Yeah, he got bit.
Powerful stuff to watch.
Yeah, they can be pretty brutal sometimes. It's that basic evolutionary force to mate. It's very strong in these bears, and the difference between mating and not is a very powerful force for these guys, absolutely.
And it was amazing to watch the female. She's just sitting back watching these 2 guys fight over her.
She wants to see who her new boyfriend's going to be.
God, that was frightening. I'm still just shaking from that.
Yeah.
That was a good moment. When I'm photographing a mother and a cub like this, it's usually when they come together, there's some sort of quick interaction. Momentarily, they come together, they touch noses, or the baby sometimes cuddles up against the mother's chest. Those are the moments I try to click. And it's often just anticipating when they're coming together, being ready for it, like now. That's nice. The baby is just relaxing and rolling, just doing what little babies do. Ah, that is so cute.
Play is so important for bears, and they play throughout their lives. Mothers play with their cubs, and young bears play with other bears. Even sometimes big males play with other big males. It's a rich part of the bear's life. They're an incredible, incredible creature, and they're capable of extraordinary behavior.
It's so nice to see these animals just playing, just sheer enjoyment of playing and interacting. And they obviously are the same age. These are 2 females that just are having a great time. Just great to watch this. They look like sumo wrestlers in fur coats. Just full of energy, full winter coats. They couldn't look any better than this. Oh, nice move, great behavior, wow. That's a takedown and a pin. That's 4 points right there. have a trust, a bond of trust between a wild animal and a human being in their environment. It just makes you feel good. You feel like you're connected to the whole ecosystem here.
Coming out here with these bears, sitting here, making eye contact with them, unarmed, on their terms. I've been all over the world looking at wildlife and different things, and I really think it's the greatest wildlife experience on Earth. It's one of the world's greatest jewels.
You live and you work in a great environment, don't you?
Yeah, it's in my blood.
This is a special, special place. It's an honor and a privilege to have spent time with these wild bears at Katmai. I'm convinced the more we know about these amazing creatures, the better we can coexist with them. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me next time on Travels to the Edge.